The mesh is an iconic air raid route that can be effective versus either man or zone coverage. I've always liked the route because of its natural rub and the ease of being able to run it from multiple formations, from 2 backs to 2x2 to 3x1, or empty without any changes whatsoever. In a 10 personnel 2x2 set, the split should be somewhat compressed. This alignment puts pressure on the corners in that they no longer have the immediate sideline as a defender, and they have to be ready to cover both in and out breaking routes. The compressed splits also allow the concept to develop much faster, which is important, especially at the high school level. Outside runs and other air raid concepts like the shallow can pair well with the compressed 2x2 formation, so you won't be overly scoutable if that's a concern. 92 has a deep and or outbreaking route by either the Y or the Z, and I've seen coaches keep the routes mirrored with MOR goes or wheels by the receivers not running the mesh. Many coaches are utilizing outs or corners on either side dependent upon the safety structure, and of course you can tag the concept with a variety of other options depending on the formation of the defense. I prefer the corner route by the Y or the Z. I liked it when I first saw the concept in an old Valdosta State playbook that I found circulating the web. I still like it. I like the idea of the smash read that the corner creates, and the corner is also a route that's in several other concepts that I prefer to run, so the consistency makes sense to me as well. Regardless of what you choose to run, the most important thing is the stretch that you get. Make the defense respect the deep and or out to the quote-unquote concept side. The pre-snap leverage by the corner and the alignment of the safety should be considered in the PSR to expedite the post-snap read by your quarterback. The mesh is 2 intersecting drag routes by the receiver on the right side of the formation with the receiver on the left, in this case the Y and the H. The player on the right, again in this case the Y, always has the responsibility of setting the depth of the mesh. His aiming point, you should coach that up, should be about 6 yards off line of scrimmage, somewhere between the 2 guards, and his job is to look for a rub, either of the backer or the man defender chasing the opposite drag. The X or H is responsible for making a good mesh, always underneath the Y or the Z, and this is where your player might have to improvise a little bit. Obviously the aiming point is always 6 yards for the Y or the Z, but the H has to make that mesh happen, regardless of the depth. The better the rub, the higher the probability of the defender getting caught up in traffic or forced underneath or over top. Basically, the X or H just has to get through clean with a good rub. The general rule of thumb is that both receivers running the mesh should be looking for the defender chasing his counterpart, which would indicate man coverage, and that would tell him to continue the mesh. I prefer the receivers also climb after meshing. If they read man coverage, I like the stress that it puts on the defender that's chasing him, and it also eliminates any chance of intersecting routes with the F. Seeing no defender trailing would obviously indicate zone, and then each receiver should sit in an open window after meshing and expect the ball to the side opposite the near defender. The F completes the concept on the right side by shooting or swinging to the numbers. I favor the swing over the shoot because of the distance that it creates between the mesh and the swing. In my experience, a flat defender is going to generally take a much more aggressive upfield angle to intercept the swing, and that's going to create an easier read for the quarterback. Whether you run a shoot or a swing, the F just needs to stretch the field horizontally in a hurry. In a cover 2 scenario such as this one, the corner route and the swing route create a nice high-low read for your quarterback. In a 3 deep structure such as this one, the corner route is going to be effective in that it's simply going to hold the corner and the safety. Now the triangle read is going to be a result of the high-low between the F and the Z and the horizontal read between the H and the F. The Y should collision the SAM and the H should be able to mesh underneath and get through clean. The quarterback, having read a 3 deep structure, should forego the corner route. The decision is then going to be made on the horizontal stretch created by the F and the H. If the strong safety rolls downhill and aggressively attacks the swing, that's going to create a running lane for the H. If the strong safety's eyes shift inside and he looks to wall off and attack this mesh, then the F will be wide open on the swing. I can personally say that I prefer the triangle read as opposed to anything else. However, with that being said, I would love to hear what you teach and how you teach it, especially if you found success doing something different than what I've described. The Y is the route that we're generally going to hit least often. It is something that if we see maybe comes open versus a particular team or defense, it's going to be a conversation that we have about looking to hit it early, foregoing the triangle read. As I stated earlier regarding the receiver that's not running the mesh on the left side, I've seen many coaches mirror the routes with MR goes or wheels, speed outs, tag post or corners. Me personally, I've utilized a slant return or whip route by the X when we're running like an HY mesh. I guess there's two main reasons that I like the route as opposed to something else. The first being that if we run the mesh from the 20 personnel, we're asking the H to shoot to the numbers. The slant return or whip by the X in a 2x2 essentially creates the same exact throw for the quarterback. And the second being is basically I just really love the route. It's something that's safe versus man. In fact, the tighter the better. And if there's something that my quarterback doesn't like pre-snap with the corner and the mesh and the triangle read, then he can elect to throw that. And if we no longer have a wasted route in the concept, because you're rarely going to see a quarterback progress to the fourth read in the progression. I'd love your opinion on this because I know that I'm definitely in the minority when it comes to this route in this concept. This is the clip of the HY mesh with the slant return, and it's kind of like a case in point of why I like the that route for the X. We've been moving the ball down the field, and we get to about the 5, and the defense comes out in something very exotic. Obviously, you should have checked to a run versus a 5-man box. Please don't out at me. However, the play was called. Quarterback did not like what he saw in regards to the mesh. Obviously, the triangle read is not going to be the option. You can see on the snap of the ball, his head goes there. Footwork is awful, but his head goes to the right read in this case if we weren't going to check to the run. And even at man coverage, man press, he's able to beat his man inside because he jumps the slant. Leave me a message below, or better yet, get at me on Twitter. I've included my Twitter handle on the screen at NZ Shuttlesworth. Tweet me or DM me. I'd love to hear what you do, and more importantly, why you do it. Spread them and shred them. Spin it to win it.